Hello, ladies. Today we talk about funneling. For those of you who don't know what funneling means, it also can be called rotational dating. So it's basically dating more than one man at a time. I've talked about this many times in different contexts, and I want to talk about this today within the context of why is it important, what's the mentality around it, and how to navigate certain situations that some of my clients are ending up with, where you're finding a man who you have a really good connection with, and it's either he's from a different culture, primarily where you know that he is not dating anyone else. It's very clear that he's dating you only. But, and this is crucial, he has not, quote unquote, claimed you yet. He has not had a serious discussion with you about what this is and who you are together, right? So there's no discussion about we're in a relationship. Many of my clients even say, like, they decide that they're only gonna get to know one man at a time. You can do whatever you want. This is your life. And obviously this is your dating life. And I'm not someone who has very strict, rigid rules around this. There are plenty of couples who have done this whole getting to know one person at a time thing and are happily married in a relationship, right? There's also plenty who are not. So every woman navigates this for herself. And I really wanted to create an episode here where I just talk to you about the mindset around funneling and why it's important and what does it actually mean? Because what I wrote to my client just now in our private group is I said, funneling is not just for like Americans, let's say, right? Funneling doesn't depend on your country of birth or culture, whatever. And I could see where she's coming from. And I want to explain this. So I think a lot of women think that this whole dating different people at a time is like a Western idea. In the West, we're sexually liberated. We can date different people and we just date, right? In other cultures, it's not the same, right? And we get caught up, I think, in the semantics of it, like arranged marriages, for example, or cultures that would really look down upon what do you mean you're dating different people, right? So let's talk about this because funneling is ingrained or based on evolutionary psychology, mating psychology, and the idea of feminine-masculine polarity. Evolutionary psychology means that, just like evolution, for example, right, is based on individuals within a certain species developing certain characteristics, and those, the survival of the fittest, basically. The same thing applies to sexual selection. Right? And sexual selection means that over time, through thousands of years, obviously, males and females, we developed different mating strategies in order to attract the best partner for us. So females, if you look even in other species, not humans, and I mean, primarily you should look there, females have the choice. Females have always had the choice of choosing their mating partner. And the males compete for the females. Why is that the case? And by the way, this is something that when women might hear it is like, what? I have the choice? Fuck yeah, you have the choice. And you've always had the choice. And all the men around you are constantly competing. And by the way, this is not a conscious choice. And a book that I recommend reading is Evolution of Desire by David Buss that explains really well these concepts, okay? So as a female, you choose among the best male specimens out there. And why you choose? Because as a female, you are the only sex out of two that can carry a child. You making a bad choice in a partner is 10x, if not more detrimental to you. And you know this, especially if you've been a mother or pregnant or whatever. You making a wrong decision and a choice in a man and risk having sex with him, because as soon as you have sex, evolutionarily speaking, your body just attaches. That's why women are so much more attached than men in sex, while he can just release and fucking go, right? Like, I don't care. Men are not emotional in sex simply because they're not wired to be. But for us, our risk of making the wrong choice in a partnership, especially the man that we have children, is incredible. It's like sometimes it's life or death. Because as a woman, today not, but even less than 100 years ago, obviously you didn't have opportunities to work and stuff like that. You have a child and essentially you're just not working as a woman 100 years ago, right? You're just taking care of the household. If you have a child and this man either leaves or deserts you or doesn't bring in enough money and cash, you are fucked. because you made the wrong choice. So that's why as a woman, you are in charge and you always choose, and men compete for you. The feminine-masculine polarity stems from this evolutionary psychology and mating selection principles, preferences that developed over thousands of years. We can't even control it, right? We just have to be aware of it and understand it and use it to our advantage in our current modern life. The principle of feminine-masculine polarity, where it's an attraction principle, right? Most women are attracted to masculine men who have their life together, men who are ambitious, men who have access and can provide and have access and can attain resources. Again, back to evolutionary psychology. Because me, as a woman, as soon as I get pregnant, game over. Well, not really game over. Thank God I'm living in the 20th century. But still, I have to carry a child for 9 months in my belly. I'm going to throw up almost every day, or maybe for 2 semesters. I have 2 children, so I know what I'm talking about. I then have to birth. My body has to recover. I then have to somehow nurse from these breasts that were a sexual object, and now there's fucking milk leaking out of my 2 breasts. And then, of course, the first 3 years of a child is fucking crazy because you're not sleeping, you're home, everything. I've got 2 kids, okay? Mine, my youngest one is still 2, so I know what I'm talking about, okay? It's hard work. Imagine you have a second child, imagine you have a third child, so okay? So we're going to be clear about this. We are not equal. Our parental investment as women is extremely higher than that of men. What they have to do is simply impregnate and then provide resources and watch, right? So the principle of feminine-masculine attraction and polarity is based on that. That's why we, evolutionary speaking, and read that book, we're attracted to men across cultures, by the way. This is coming back to the argument that is it different in other culture? No. Across every culture, there were studies upon studies upon studies that say that women, in a man, they prefer the number one criteria out of everything. They prefer a man who has access to resources and can provide and protect. Period. Men value other things. One of them is obviously visually a woman has to be very attractive, and other things as well. But for them, the fact that you can provide and succeed, it doesn't matter, right? So that's the principle of feminine-masculine polarity, attraction there. You're attracted to a man who is ambitious, who is successful, who can provide, and he's attracted to a woman who's in her feminine, who takes care of herself, who loves being in her body, who can relax, let go of control and be in the moment and go with the flow, okay? So coming back to funneling, how do we apply this in the 21st century and the idea of funneling? I mean, a lot of the times I bang this whole thing about you gotta funnel, you gotta see other men, because what women do constantly is that they meet a guy, he gives her his number and everything's going well. You go on 5 dates, everything's great. He's like, I want you to meet my parents, for example, or he gives you some ideas about the future, or whatever, you have sex, he disappears. So up until you have sex or whatever that story is, right? You think you're in a relationship. All women want is to be in a relationship with a guy. They want to feel safe. They want to feel taken care of. They want to be nourished. And as soon as there's a hint of a man giving you a slight idea that he might be interested in that right now, this is it. It's like mission attached, especially after sex, and I'm in a relationship. You call your mom, you call your girlfriend, this is a period. So what happens after 5 dates? He, might have changed his mind, or he might have decided that, you're not compatible or whatever, or he doesn't want children, he's not ready for whatever that is. Then your heart is broken, you're devastated, and you're like, I never want to meet men again. And imagine if this repeats. Then, of course, you're exhausted and burnt out, right? So that's why we funnel. Some women funnel extreme funneling, literally going out on dates and dates and dates and different men. Great. I support that. And some women are funneling in completely different ways, like getting to know men one at a time, but at different times, if that makes sense. So the idea is, do not close yourself to other opportunities and other men and yourself. Focus on you. The first person who you should funnel in your funnel is you, and your own life and your own adventures. And you know that phrase, women always expect men to change. Men always expect women to stay the same. So that's your job. And another thing about funneling and seeing different men, there should be absolutely zero guilt. I made different episodes on this. And there should be zero guilt because, think about it. Let's say there are 100 women for 100 men in the village. And let's say 10% of these women, so 10 women out of 100, are highly desirable, are top desirable. Not because, by the way, of their looks. Sure, looks play into it, but as a woman, that's why we've got makeup and earrings. Like, I, as a woman, know, and that's why the beauty industry is not making us buy shit for an unknown reason. The beauty industry is there because the beauty industry helps us look a certain way, the way we want to look, attractive. Of course, to ourselves first. Like, I put this, not because my husbands find me attractive or men will find, but because I feel attractive. Of course, there's genetics, right? Like, I'm genetically not blessed with having incredible looks. In fact, I think one of my eyes now is like, I don't know what happened. But anyways, but I know how to use the tools that are provided to me to make myself really attractive and to elevate myself from, let's say, 6 to an 8. Every woman can do that, by the way. And if you don't know how, get on the bandwagon, not for men, but for you. So if you're in the top 10, and it's not based on looks, because for thousands of years, women in like freaking Egypt and Cleopatra and everything, they've made themselves attractive. Our toolbox is very, very extensive when it comes to being attractive to men through different tools that I'm not going to get into, from seduction, flirtation, from makeup, from clothes, if you know how to dress your body type, like all that. Anyways, I won't go into that. So it's not just like the prettiest women are at the top. No. There are many different women who, even today, are not, let's say, a 10 by a standard, like they're skinny or whatever, and they're still attractive as fuck to men, okay? So there are top 10 women, top 10, yeah, out of 100 men, right? So what do men do? The men who have the most amount of resources in that society, 100, will compete for the top women. And what happens with the top women? So let's say there's 10 men, 10 women who are at the top, and I don't know how many men. Statistically speaking, it's probably 10, right? As well. I don't even know how this experience works. But anyways, so imagine you're one of those 10 women. And of course, sure, out of 10, maybe 5 are not interested in you. But the other 5, no, the math here is wrong. Sorry, I got to consult with my husband, who's more of a statistician than me. The idea is, and oh, by the way, all the other guys are going to compete for the top women as well, right? Because they think that they're going to have a chance. And so you as the woman who is at the top, and that's your job, to constantly develop yourself, to constantly become that woman who is at the top, so to say. And I'm not saying like become with makeup, with plastic surgery, all that is bullshit. It's become the woman who's so fucking attractive to herself, so juiced up, that she walks on any street, in any city, in any country, and men just run after her left and right. I kid you not. Well, I see these effects for myself because I'm married with 2 kids and men are constantly surrounding me and giving me eye contact and stuff. I just energetically shut down because I'm married. But I've taught women, I've coached women to have that. And it doesn't matter how you look like. So as that type of a woman, you will be in demand. You will have suitors. Like in the 18th century, 17th century, or even if it's like arranged marriage, it doesn't matter. If you are in demand, and what makes you in demand? Attractive, fertile, whatever that means, right? Like let's translate it to today's language. Attractive, fertile in your feminine energy, right? That's what men want. So if you are at that, men will compete for you. No man has the right to assume that because you had sex and went with him 5 dates and he's going through his thing and he's talking about like kids and marriage to you, although I'd be a little bit concerned because I'm talking about a client, why he's talking about marriage and children if he had not claimed you yet. Like, how does that happen? I would just rewind and I would give him a shit sandwich and say, hey, Joan, I really, really love spending your time with you. In fact, I think we're a perfect match, blah, blah. I feel this and this. However, I feel like you bringing up marriage and children is a little bit premature. We're not even officially in a relationship yet. So I'm a little bit confused. Again, I really like and enjoy spending time with you, but it feels like this conversation, not in timeline, is premature, but actually is just premature in terms of a sequence of events. So that's the idea with funneling. Getting to know one person at a time is great. That is your choice. But know that as a woman who is extremely attractive, has a lot to offer, you do not put your eggs in one basket. And if you choose to, Sure, this could lead to, I think the chances are kind of 50-50. This could lead to something amazing and incredible in a relationship, or this could lead to something that's not, and then you've wasted your time. To me, this second option, and you don't need to like flaunt it or whatever. You don't need to even schedule dates. You just need to remember that you are not in a relationship, and you need to continue going to different events, having your own life, and saying yes to men if they invite you somewhere or if they ask you for your number, because that girlfriend is going to stir up a lot of shit with you and this man that you're seeing now that thinks that you're in a relationship. And if the conversation comes up, you have to explain. You have to explain that I've done this in the past. I focused on one man at a time, and it didn't bring me great results, because this is true. Because as a woman, I fall so much for words, and I assume that we're in a relationship when we're not. So that's why I'm doing it. Of course, I would love to be in a relationship with you, but I'm not going to force you into anything. I'm giving you and me a chance to actually enter consciously into a relationship and have an agreement about it. And I know men usually take longer. In this situation, a man will say, oh my God, what are you talking about? Of course we're in a relationship. Okay, do you want to have the talk? Like, let's be in a relationship. A man who is afraid or deeply insulted by the fact that another man is calling you before he had officially claimed you, it's the same thing as marriage, right? People don't assume they're getting married. Of course, there's legalities, but still, you don't assume that you're married. A man has to ask you. So the same thing has to happen in dating. A man has to ask you. Give him the chance to ask you. And then when he asks you, that sets the trajectory for moving forward in a completely different way. And then you could, of course, talk about children. But to me, it's like, okay, well, you talk about children, and of course this woman is 44, so it's a bit of different context, but you talk about children before marriage. Are you available for that? Like, okay, we can start the process, but like, I want to have children. It feels good in my body to have the discussion about children with my life partner who I'm married to. I got proposed to 9 months after I met my husband, and that is, we traveled the world together, and it escalated. But usually it's like a year or two. Although, of course, this woman who was asking me, that's a completely different subject. It's about you're 44. So you got to work within the timeline, you know? And so it's a really interesting situation to deal with. But anyways, I hope you heard me. I hope you've heard me that there's absolutely no guilt, and it's not dependent on culture. Focus on you. Focus on becoming the best version of you, that you look in the mirror every day and you're amazed and in love by what you see. And when I put on makeup on my beautiful acne-filled face, on my imperfect face, I love it. I love who I am. I love my body. I love being a woman. And my husband can't get enough of it. That's the recipe that I leave with you with. And if you want to listen more and discover more about feminine masculine polarity, please watch this video here that will help you do that. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.